tell him about the time we faced.
All right. Well, as I remember.
At Avenger headquarters.
Because united, the Avengers are strong.
Welcome to the Marvel D&T Evolution podcast with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And we have got a guest on today who we're very, very excited to speak to. We've got Paul Scardino of, can I say Funko fame, Paul?
Sure, I guess.
How are you? All right.
I'm doing really good. Thank you, guys.
Excellent. We'll get stuck into having a real good conversation with you in a little while and what you're about and where you've come from and where we can find more about you and what you do. But as always, we're going to just recap last week's episode and do a little bit of news before we get there, guys. Okay, so looking at last week's episode, we had Martin Flanagan back, Professor Marvel himself, as I've sort of coined him, to be totally honest. it wasn't a self phrase that he come up with, but yeah. So Professor Marvel, it was good to chat with Martin and get his views, weren't it, Alex? To just, he's such an interesting guy and he's got such a great view on everything.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I love to hear him just break things down, even if he's just talking about overall themes or if he's, talking about the MCU as a whole, because he kind of, he puts everything together and he's got so much comic knowledge as well. I mean, and he's read DC, Marvel, a whole 9 yards. So he's written about it. He's written books about it. So I always love to hear his take on things.
For sure. He's one of those guys that he won't talk until everybody else has spoken, because what he's doing, he's soaking everything up, and then he sort of gives his opinion, and everyone goes, "Yeah," because he's really listened, and he really takes every aspect on board and lays it out for you in a way that you're kind of. But then again, he's a university level professor and a lecturer, so that's what he does for a living. So he's very good at that. But yeah, so if you haven't listened to that last episode, get back on that one. We spoke about all sorts of stuff, really, didn't we? Basically, what's been happening over the last 6 months within the MCU. So that was a great conversation with Martin. But moving on to this week, I know Jarian's got a few bits of news, and as I said, Paul, if you fancy cutting in on anything sticks out at you, then please, don't be afraid to speak up. But over to you, Jarian.
Yeah, so first bit of news is that Secret Invasion is underway and filming over in your neck of the woods, Andy. Looks like Samuel Jackson's on set, Kobe Smulders, who plays Maria Hill, Ben Mendelsohn, Amelia Clark. They're all on set and they're filming. So there's been some set pictures that I've shared some articles to the group. And so that's well underway. Looks like there was a little spoofer on set too, a little kid just by Spider-Man as well in some of the pictures I saw on social media, so that was kind of funny. But also too, last week I talked about the Marvel lineup for 2022, how the Marvel Japanese site had Secret Invasion and What If Season 2 on the docket for this year. They have since removed them. I'm not sure if that's any indication of the schedule this year or if something they put out there that wasn't supposed to be out yet. Because we know how Marvel, especially with the pandemic and with things slipping at times, they want to stay very fluid with the schedule. So maybe that wasn't supposed to get out there yet until Secret Invasion was a little more closer to completion. But we know with What If, though, season 1 was happening during Endgame Infinity War filming. So I'm pretty sure that What If season 2 is already far, far down the production cycle.
Yeah, I think they've had a few episodes of that sort of in the bag. They obviously held back the Tony and Gamora episode.
Sakaar.
Yeah, on Sakaar. So I reckon that one's constantly rolling the animated side of it. But I don't know, like you say, on the filming side of things for Secret Invasion, if they've only just started filming, are we going to see it this year? I can't imagine it myself. I mean, I don't know, but
if it is, it's probably going to be tail end of the year, probably.
Yeah, or early 2023 is.
Yeah.
What you can hope for, I guess, being the best outcome there, if not.
Yeah, so maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it got slipped out on accident. I guess we'll have something to stay tuned for. But everything else is still on the site, so expect everything else to still come out this year.
Cool.
And then the last bit of news, it does seem like Marvel is building toward Midnight Suns. Starting with Eternals, especially with Chloe Zhao saying that scene, the end credit scene with Dane Whitman's Black Knight and getting ready to touch the ebony blade, and the cameo by Marshala Ali's blade, asking him if he sure wants to do that. It does sound like they are building something big from one of the quotes that she had, that she's pretty excited for what this sets up. So we know Moon Knight's coming March 30th. We know that we have Black Knight. We know Blade with the cameo. We know we have a Blade movie coming. We know Werewolf by Night is coming. The rumor has it is that Moon Knight will have a Midnight Suns appearance tie-in possibly, along with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness as well. There's some chatter about Blade in Moon Knight potentially, and Ghost Rider potentially in Multiverse of Madness. There's been some chatter out there. I'm not sure what is all true and all this rumor, but it seems there's been some articles out there by some of the usuals out there that we shared in the group, and that it looks like they're building towards Midnight Suns.
Do you think they can top the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movies? Do you think they'll be able
Yes.
or is that untouchable ground? I don't know.
I don't know. It'd be interesting how they do that though, because the rumor is that Norman Reedus is who they're going after for Johnny Blaze, but then some other things during one of the AMAs with one of the scoopers last week or week before, they said that Blaze is the goal, but if they can't get who they want, they're not going to rule out other versions of Ghost Rider. So for me personally, so far, I loved Robbie Reyes and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Hell Charger. That was my favorite one so far on screen. So any Ghost Rider we get in the MCU, I think is a win.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see Johnny Blaze because we already saw Nick Cage play him. I kind of would rather like to see, like you said, or Danny Ketch.
Yep.
Like, just as an alternative, but
I just really want to see that comic scene that I shared to the group about Moon Knight stealing the Hell Charger. You know, that would be the perfect way to have like a closing credit scene in Moon Knight series. Don't show which Ghost Rider, just to have him stealing the Hell Charger, and you know it could something could happen to Reyes, and maybe it's Ketch coming after him, or it's Blaze coming after him, or maybe he's Ghost Rider for a little bit before they get the real Ghost Rider. So I just want to see that happen on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how far they go down the route of the I don't like using this term, but like the darker aspects.
The supernatural side of Marvel.
Yeah, and how they approach it while still being Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know,
it's going to be a fine line, and I think the Moon Knight series is going to give us an indication, because right now we know the only R-rated property is going to be Deadpool.
Yeah,
and nothing else will be rated R that we know of in the MCU. So this is going to be that fine line of how they're going to do it, especially if they end up bringing Punisher back in. If they, you know, how Blade's going to play out, because we saw the Blade movies, how much gore and violence were in those movies. You know, will they throw it over to Hulu? Possibly, who knows? But I doubt anything will not be on Disney Plus. I don't think they're going to throw it over to another streaming service they have. So, one thing to keep an eye on.
Right. Okay. So just a thought before we move on is and again saying that taking it over to Hulu because of the age restrictions over here. In England, we get PG, we get 12A, and we get 15, and then we get 18, which is R. Is there a stopgap in the States between those two things?
There's G, there's PG, there's NC-17, and R, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So there is a stopgap in between the two, then.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Excellent. I wonder whether they can utilize that.
Maybe. It'll be interesting to see where they put that content, though, if it's NC-17, especially with Disney Plus. You know, they do have the Hulu option, but it doesn't sound like Feige's too fond of Hulu from some of the interviews and some of the content over there. So
right, okay.
And the stuff that they have on Hulu is like MODOK and Hitmonkey and stuff right now, you know? So it's kind of like the stuff that doesn't really fit well with any MCU content right now. So
right, yeah, no, that's right, and yeah, is there going to be? Is it too disjointed? If they've got some stuff on Disney Plus, other stuff on Hulu. I know it's on Disney, but do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Has it all got to be in the same place?
Yeah. I don't know.
No, I don't know either. It'll be interesting. Like you say, Jarian, Moon Knight will be a good indicator of how far they can take it while still sitting in with that PG-13 rating.
Mhm.
Excellent. We're talking about PG just before we move on to talking to Paul, talking about PG-13 and talking about other things other than MCU, but still Marvel related. For anybody watching, I've been reading this, which is King in Black. Yeah, King in Black. So anybody listening, I've been reading King in Black, which is the follow-up story from Absolute Carnage, and it's there's no holds barred in regards to the violence in those two stories. But I've been really enjoying it. I was a little bit behind on new stories over the last couple of years. So it was like, okay, I need to catch up on War of the Realms. I need to catch up on Absolute Carnage. I need to catch up on King in Black, on Empire, and then I've caught up. I just sort of had a couple of years where I sort of, waned a little bit and didn't keep up with the latest stories. King in Black, I'm enjoying it. I know you've completed it. You've read it, haven't you, Alex? You've read it all the way through.
I actually have not. No,
Oh,
I no, yeah, I have not read it all the way through. I've kind of like peeked through it a little bit and gone through it, but I haven't read all of that. I know I'm so like strange when it comes to the symbiote stuff and like all that kind of stuff. I don't know why. I just am.
Well, that was my fault because you've got quite a high knowledge of the symbiote stuff and the Necrosword and Null and a desire to get Null into the MCU, and I was like,
yeah. Well, no, so I've got a buddy of mine that's like a big, amazing Spider-Man fan, and we talk about Spider-Man and the symbiotes a lot. So, like, I get a lot of my secondhand symbiote knowledge from him. So it's like, but I mean, like, I know of Null. I've seen Null. I know about Null and everything like that. But he's such a powerful being in Marvel that it's like he's almost like unstoppable. It seems like, so.
And that's exactly what I'm feeling reading King in Black at the moment. He just seems unstoppable. Like, it doesn't matter who they throw at him. He's like, nah, it doesn't. He's swatting them away basically.
Like,
so
if they brought him to the MCU, he could be a Thanos level threat, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, potentially. But yeah, so that's what I've been reading, and I've been avoiding. Paul, put your fingers in your ears. I've been avoiding buying any Funkos this month.
Well, I won't ruin the ending for you because I read King in Black too, and there's a Funko Pop that they released, I think maybe 2 or 3 months ago, that kind of is an end scene from King in Black.
Right.
So it's a pop in a box exclusive. So I won't tell you what it is because it kind of gives you a little bit of kind of a mini spoiler.
If you can give me 20 minutes, I'll quickly finish reading it, and then we can come back and you can tell us. Do you know what? It's funny actually that you brought that up. That's something that I'm going to ask you about when we really delve into chatting with you in a moment. But I've sort of strayed off of buying Funkos for January. I was like, no, I filled the cabinet behind me, and I was like, I'm not going to buy any more for January. I'm just going to have January off of buying Funkos. So, anyway, with no further ado, so let's get chatting to you, Paul. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me on, and was looking forward to this. I always like talking about Marvel stuff specifically. It's my favorite. I'm really big into comic books, but Marvel's my favorite. So that's kind of the more comics. I still buy comics and read comics and stuff. So it's probably my bigger pull list is from Marvel, and I have the online Unlimited app, so I'm always reading stuff on the Unlimited app too.
Yeah, that's such a good source. A lot of people in our group have got the app,
Yep.
and they really like that sort of availability. Although I've got to admit, I am a sucker for a physical thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I go and buy the physical books, and I keep them on the bags and the boards, and just put them in storage and read on Marvel Unlimited. It's such a terrible thing to do. I don't know why I do it, but
You're a true collector, aren't you, Alex?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, when I was a kid, I even bought action figures I still have today that I never opened in the packages. So like
a friend of mine, he's done exactly the same, but he's in his 50s, nearly in his 60s now. So the stuff that he was buying was, first edition Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica stuff
through the roof now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So he's got a lot of stuff hiding away. Anyway, sorry, back to you, Paul. No, well, good news that you're a Marvel fan. but yeah, we can talk about Marvel. We're definitely going to ask you a few Marvel questions. But just introduce yourself for people who don't know who you are and what your sort of background is. Yeah, over to you.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you again, guys. So my name's Paul Scardino. So I guess if for those that do know who I am, they probably know me from Funko related stuff and content. So I was the 2021 Guinness World Record holder for the largest Funko Pop collection. So the record that was set at that time was about 5,375 Funko Pops. I probably have closer to 7,000 right now. But so that's probably initially. And then from there, I've been doing some collaborations with some other entities like Mercari. So I collaborate with Mercari and they sponsor my YouTube videos. So I have a YouTube channel. It's been about a year now, The Pop Enthusiast. And then I started a Facebook group, Funko Pop Fans, who we just passed 30,000 members.
Nice.
So just kind of it's just a really awesome group of collectors, just, through YouTube, through Facebook, locally. There's people all over the world that I've been connecting with about stuff. So it's been really fun. So I guess you can say that's kind of what I do on the side. It's a side gig, but in my real life, my secret identity is I'm a clinical social worker. So I'm a therapist essentially. So I'm a manager for a mental health facility. And, you may ask me this question later, but I guess it makes sense to maybe bring this up. But how I got into Funkos was actually somebody gifted me some Marvel Funkos. That was my very first pop, was Marvel. And it was the Spidey and Hawkeye pack that had Spidey holding the shield from Captain America Civil War. So that was like my first two Funko Pops, and I just absolutely fell in love with those. And was kind of looking for all the other Marvels. I think I bought like Black Panther and Doctor Strange that same night at like my local Books A Million. And it just kind of spiraled from there. But what really kept it going was I would bring the Pops to my mental health office and display them like this. And so eventually, kids that would come in and families that would come in for therapy, they would want to tour the museum, sort of. And so it kind of became this thing where people would come in and like it's kind of like geek therapy in a way. So we'd kind of, what are they into? What do they like? And we'd find it on the shelf and talk about it and stuff like that. So it just kind of went from there. So there's a strong relationship between kind of the human connection piece of collecting for me and the actual just enjoyment of it. So
yeah, you've made a real connection between just collecting Funko Pops for just because you like the look of Funko Pops and actually having them be really valuable in people's lives. I mean, I never thought that would happen. So well done. That's amazing.
Yeah, they're just plastic, but that, everybody, regardless of like, your political persuasion or what, any kind of other stuff, like if you're both Star Wars fans, there you go. You have a connection, you have some similarities. So for me, I think it's all about finding those similarities and bridging. Funkos for me are a way to bridge into somebody else's life, and find out what are they into, what do they like. And it tells you a lot about them, I think. So
yeah, it's like a common ground / icebreaker type of thing.
Yes. You walk in somewhere, you see a couple Funkos, which are usually a normal amount, just like a couple behind somebody, and then it kind of starts like, oh, you collect Funko Pops, or like, oh, you like Iron Man, and so it's an opportunity to connect.
We're so long story short, for Christmas, what we tend to do, what me and my wife and my kids tend to do is for other people, we have a theme of what we're going to buy for that year. So it really narrows down the choices. You're not sort of racking your brain about what to buy. So we've had all sorts of things in the past, like locally bought. So everything's been bought from our town centre, or it's going to be no plastic, or this year was books. So everyone got a book. And one of my sons, I can't remember which one, but one of them said next year everyone should get a Funko Pop of something that they like. So, but I think that's really cool, because that then also transcends just collecting. That also is like, well, actually, I recognise that you like Star Wars. I recognise that you like Disney, and that you like Sherlock Holmes, or that you like, well, pretty much anything, because you can get Funkos for absolutely everything now, can't you? So, I think that's, I've never thought about it as transcending more than just purely collecting these little plastic figures that look cool, but until about 6 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's definitely hits the nostalgia button for a lot of people, and not. I mean, the collection that I have, I would say not positive or negative, but it's not a normal collection. I guess not many people, I guess, would want to have 7,000 pops in their basement, but it became a thing for me, and it's kind of turned into a side gig too. We are able to bring in some additional income from the content that we create and all this kind of stuff. So that which is awesome. But really just, it was really cool I almost enjoy more when other people see the collection versus just me looking at it. Like I can just sit here and look at it. It's like, yeah, this is cool. But I really get excited when someone else like comes over or they want to like take a tour and they find something that they really like, and you see them light up, and then you kind of talk about it, and then you connect that way. So
Yeah, I can see you're sort of passing on the enjoyment, and it's almost doubled because they're getting enjoyment, so you're getting enjoyment as well.
Yes. To me, they're meant to be shared, and it's totally fine to share them in box. That's fine. I do have some in box, but for the most part, not only for space reasons, but I like how they look out of box. They just look really, to me, they look really awesome, just like lined up, next to each other, sets. I try to be very organized with it, and it's all genre and set specific, and put them together and all that. So
nice.
So I have to ask, what was your first Funko Pop? You said
it was the it's not necessarily a 2-pack because it came with like 2 keychains, but it was 2 pops and 2 keychains, and it was the Captain America Civil War pack that had Hawkeye and Spider-Man holding the Cap shield, and that was really sentimental to me because someone got it for me for my birthday around 2015, I think it was, and I mean that was the introduction of Spider-Man in the MCU. Like that was huge, Spidey being in that movie, and that was just the introduction to Tom Holland and all that stuff. So from there, and the fact that they're bobbleheads, just the Marvel and Star Wars are bobbleheads, but just I love the fact that they were bobbleheads, and just that just grew from there. And I told myself, I'm just going to collect comic book ones like Marvel and DC, and that's it. And then you see how
Jarian's laugh there. Look, I bet that's how you start. That's what you did, wasn't it? I'm just going to get this one variety.
Yeah. I started off with just collecting Marvel ones, and then I have a whole closet full, and then my wife's like, you got to do Legos or Funkos. You can't do both. We don't have the space for it. So I'm like recovering Funkoholic, but I'm living vicariously through all of you.
he really does as well. Really does. So I just done a really quick bit of maths. So you said 2015, so that's 6 years. Yes. No, it's actually 7 years ago, isn't it? So it works out as about 2 or 3 Funkos a day, every day since 2015.
Yeah. Well, so there was excellent. So not in any way do I recommend anybody else do that kind of a pace, but I'm really about like I'm not a rich person. I'm a social worker, so it's really for me it's about the hunt and it's about the price points. And I actually did a video on my YouTube channel about this, but just kind of what my price point is usually about $5, $6, $7 per pop. Like that's my limit, unless it's an exclusive or something. But for a common, I try to find that price point with like coupons and deals, and I really rely on like in the States like Hot Cash, and there's certain stores that have 50% off type things going on. So I usually buy in bulk when I get the opportunity. So it might be weeks or months and I don't buy anything, but then like there's a sale and then it's like, okay, then I move in heavy and get the ones I've been waiting for. So it's kind of a matter of price point, knowing the values, knowing which pops are going to be hot and which are going to be available later. Like we were just at the local mall today, my wife and I, and we were just kind of walking around, and I went in one of the stores that had pops, and there were definitely pops I wanted, but not for the price point that they were. And I knew, I mean, I'm betting on anyway, but I'm pretty sure that these pops are going to be around and eventually will be discounted on the shelf, and so then that's when I'll go in and buy them. So it's all just I guess not that I would call this being smart with your money at all, but I think there's a way to be frugal and still collect.
Totally.
It's like use the Hot Topics Hot Cash where you spend X but you get X amount off. Yeah, I do that with hoodies.
Yep.
No, I think that's a really good idea. But just winding back on just what you said about you don't advise anybody to spend their money on pops or whatever, but everybody's got their thing, haven't they? Everybody's got their thing. And, I mean, I know people with £120,000 cars, but they're not rich people, but they've got this amazing car. Or on the other hand, people that, go and gamble all their money away, or they go on holidays 4 times a year, or they do whatever. I don't know. They've got 20 dogs, or I don't. But,
Cat person.
But no, you get my point. Everybody's got their thing, and I think as long as it's not hurting anybody, as long as it's not,
Sure.
Offensive as such, then who's to say that it's wrong to have a big collection of anything? If that's what you want to spend more money on, then that's fine.
That's exactly that's the conversation I have with my wife all the time. She's great. She's very supportive of the collection. She's not a collector per se, but she has what's the word for it? She says some of these are hers, like the ones that she really likes. She has put her label on them, and those are hers.
Is it a classic? What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine kind of situation?
That's exactly
So just a quick shout out to Jamie, because I know he'll be listening tomorrow. So Jamie, one of the other admins on our page, he's a collector as well. And his wife originally, from what I understand, was a little bit like, no, you're not getting any more. And now apparently he's completely turned her, and she's buying loads. So good job, Jay. Well done. So okay, cool. So that, that's a really interesting background, and like I said, I just reiterate the point that I really love the fact that you found a way to sort of transcend just collecting these things just for the sake of collecting them, and just for having more and actually adding value to people's lives.
That's the hope. Yeah, I mean, that's what I get messages all the time from people all over the world that message me about this and that, and I like interacting with people. Especially in the Facebook group, I get messages all the time. I try to interact with everybody. I approve all the posts. I message. It's the community that's important.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's really cool to see. There's people in Ireland, Australia, the Philippines, like anywhere you can think of. There's Funko Pops, which is kind of crazy, but yeah.
Excellent. So, as we're a Marvel podcast, and we like I say, we haven't really spoken about Marvel for the last 10 minutes or so, but we should bring it back around there. So in regards to Marvel Funkos in particular, and I know you as you said you're a Marvel fan, in regards to Marvel Funkos in particular, is there anything, any pieces of information, any kind of standout facts, any kind of little nuggets of wisdom that you can drop on us?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of Marvel Pops. You have the MCU specific movie, television MCU ones, and then you have the comic book version ones, which I collect them all for the Marvel lines. In my opinion, there's way too many Deadpool Pops. There's just way too many Deadpool Pops. I like the ones that actually have comic book significance. So there's kind of a trend right now, which there's nothing against these, but it'll be characters in like different genres. Like an example, they did, which I know there's a history behind it, the Luchador line that you guys may have seen. So the Marvel characters in Luchador form, or the Marvel characters in like the mech suit form, which I guess was a couple of different, miniseries recently in comic books, but it's not really like, mainstream comic book stuff. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it doesn't really impact anything, it's not really important.
Yeah, it's not really too important. Or they'll do, what was the other one that they've done? But they'll do things like that. I try to stay away from that kind of stuff and like going down those rabbit holes. They did the same thing, and I don't know if you're allowed to say the word DC on this podcast, but they did the same thing.
Totally allowed to say that. Okay. Totally, carry on.
Yes, they did the same thing with DC. Like they had like an Asian like samurai look to them, and I think they did like a La Muerte Day of the Dead version, like that kind of stuff. So I tend to stay away from those kinds of things. But overall, they've done a really awesome job, I think, with all the Marvel Pops that they come out with. All the MCU stuff, and really more of the unique comic book characters. Like they have a Beta Ray Bill, which is awesome. They have a 10-inch Galactus, holding Silver Surfer. Like that kind of stuff is just awesome.
Yeah, Alex likes all the 80-year ones.
Yeah, I've got a large majority of them. I just got Electra recently, actually. I didn't have that one, and that one was a really, really cool 80 years one. You know, it's got the crazy mask and everything like that Electra has. So
Yeah. So
Yeah, we really like those 80-year ones when you can see them where they've almost been dragged straight from the comic pages and just made into a Funko. They look fantastic. I've got a couple. I've got well, you can just about see Adam Warlock over my shoulder if you're looking.
Yep.
Yes.
And he is just absolutely. He's pride of place, you know, in my collection. I love him. I think he's absolutely brilliant. But yeah, those 80-year ones, and as you say, Paul, those ones that are taken from the comics and inspiration from the comics are brilliant.
Yeah, they do a really nice job. I guess words of wisdom, I don't know if you consider it wisdom, but I would be careful about variants. Like one thing that, and it makes sense if it makes Funko money, but a lot of times they'll do like just different variants of the same character where it'll be the character and then there'll be another pop that's metallic version and another pop that's flocked, which is fuzzy fur on it, and another pop that glows in the dark and another pop that has this and that. So it's just slight variations of the same character. And if you have to buy all those, you know, to me, it takes the fun out of it. And I try to stay away from like alternate versions of stuff. I used to, when I first started, I would buy those, but I've since like sold them or traded them or whatever. But I try to get like the unique looking pops. Same thing with the MCU. Like they'll do different poses of the same character, like Shang-Chi kicking this foot, kicking that foot, you know, kicking that foot. And so it's like, I don't need 5 Shang-Chi.
Yeah, you only need one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I try to be smart with that.
I just want to wind you back a little bit. Did you just say there was pops with fur on them?
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen the fur ones.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
I've seen the shiny ones.
I have one on the floor here. I don't think so. Yeah,
just randomly all over the place.
yeah. I just have them on the. Yeah, I just.
You're sleeping at night and you roll over. What's that? It says pop. But they've got fur on them.
They do. Yeah, they're fuzzy. So,
wow.
I would say let me grab one here. My favorite one. That's
Go on.
Is the Bob Ross. So he's got
he's got actual hair.
His afro.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's stuff like that. So if it means something like that, then I'll get, if it makes sense, if it's a 10-inch pop and the character is supposed to be like great bigger than other pops, then it makes sense to me and I might get that. But in general, I don't buy all that stuff.
Yeah, it seems like the glow in the dark ones too aren't always the best either. It's like you have to get them really dark or in the sunlight for a really long time to charge them, and it's not really worth getting the glow in the dark ones, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've bought many of them, and they never really glow. I mean, you sit them in the window, you shine a light on them, and they just don't hold the light for some reason. So
you see like one portion of them glow, and that's it.
Yeah,
and it's very faint.
Some people love the black light pops, the glow in the dark pops. They absolutely love it, and that's fine. There's nothing against that. I'm not one of those people. I don't like the glow in the dark stuff. So I just collect the main versions of the characters. But one of my I did do a video on my YouTube channel at the end of the year that like my top 10 pops of the year, and there was quite a few Marvel related pops in there. But one of them was the comic book version of Taskmaster. Like they got that.
You've made him smile, Jarian.
I think I have them right over there, but. It's awesome. Like they did a really nice job as an Amazon exclusive, so it's probably still available. But that was a really nice mold that they did. And then the Doctor Strange from the What If Disney Plus series.
Yeah,
that was
the monster Strange.
Yeah, so that made the list too. But that was a 6-inch pop. So when they do stuff like that, it's like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
My bad, Andy. I was just going to say, I also liked Erishim, the judge that they did for the Eternals. That one was another great pop. I don't have it, unfortunately, but it looks awesome.
Yeah, he does look good. I'll tell you what, though, something I noticed the other day, because I've got him, he's sitting down here in the cupboard, and I think it was actually, somebody posted something on the group, and it was some pictures of Erishim. It might have even been you, Alex. Did he post him when he was purple? Like, I guess it was like a
Galactus type play.
Yeah. Now, in Eternals, Erishim looked quite metallic, like he was wearing a helmet, quite robotic. The pop, it's great, it looks brilliant, but he looks like a bit of beef jerky. He looks like his face is all scarred up. He looks like Freddy Krueger's face. Yeah, it's like I say, I love it. It's great, but it does look like a big sort of chunk of beef brisket or something. He did not make my top 10. So He's good. He's my first sort of large, large pop. But yeah, no, I do like it. Talking about alternate versions, Paul, and just for people that might not know and might have heard the word, it floats about, especially on your group, places like that, and people talk about it and they see the stickers. But when we get a chase version, what's that all about? Can you explain what that's all about for anybody listening that doesn't know?
Sure. So what a chase is, it's an alternate variant, a limited edition alternate variant of a character. Usually it's 1 in 6. So there's a 1 in 6 chance if you were to order that. Not all pops have chases, only some of them do. But if you ordered it from a retailer or somewhere that tells you that there's a chance of a chase, it's a 1 in 6 chance. And the chase just looks different. So it has a sticker on it that says chase, so you can spot it really quickly. And I think it's meant to be like, when you're hunting in the wild, they call hunting in the wild, I guess, like if you're in a store and you're hunting for pops and you see the chase, like, oh, you got to get it, you're chasing for it. And so usually they're not really worth that much, to be honest. They're usually about $20, $30, depending on what kind of chase they are. Some are lower than that, some are higher than that. But it's just an alternate version of the same character. So, for instance, the Punisher from the Daredevil TV series has a chase. And there's a regular Punisher where he's just kind of standing there with I think he has a gun. And then there's the chase version where he's holding the Daredevil mask. So it's just a variant of the regular version, and they're just doing something different, or maybe it's metallic, or some of I call them lazy chases, if they're just like, if it's the same mold of the character but they're just glowing, or it's the same mold, or they're diamond sparkly or something. Those to me are lazy chases. Or like they're holding something different, like they're holding a ball in this one and they're holding a bat in this one, like it's and then they call that a chase. So those usually tend not to be very very valuable, but the ones that are truly like a different pop or a highly sought after chase are more valuable.
Okay. And just before we move on to talking about, I want to go into Marvel, the MCU, and pops, and how they kind of connect, and if they give things away and give us clues and things like that. But just before we get there, and it's something that we spoke about a few weeks ago with a guest on the show, Luke Smith from Hydra Collectibles, we spoke about this kind of idea of manufacturing rarity and and cost. How much is it? I know, me and Alex were talking about it the other day. Like we would have to, even if we was a millionaire, we wouldn't spend X amount of money on a Funko Pop. What do you feel about that kind of whole sort of falsified? This is rare because we're saying it's rare. What do you think of that situation?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. There's I mean, it's not illegal or anything, but there's definitely manipulation of the demand side of supply and demand. So I was just thinking about this the other day. Like, for instance, I don't know if you're familiar with the Funko sodas. Have you seen the Funko soda cans? Well, here's a Marvel one. So I'll be doing a video about sodas and doing some unboxings and stuff like that. But so here's like the Scarlet Witch one. So these are kind of manufactured demand in a way. So I don't know if you can see it.
Yep.
It says like there's only 12,500, and each one of them has a chase version. So like it says find the chase, and so like 2,000 of these will be the chase, and then 12,000 or 10,500 will be the common. So they're kind of manufacturing demand in a way that's a limited item. The same thing for the Comic-Con exclusives, the convention exclusives that some people might be familiar with. So every year there's San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con and Emerald City Comic-Con, and so all these Comic-Cons have a big Funko presence now, where there's a limited, I'm doing air quotes, limited number of items that are available at the con physically. And so that's a different sticker that's on the front of it, which I'm not a sticker person, but some people are. And then there's also shared convention exclusives, which it's the exact same pop, but it's just shared locally with retailers like Walmart, Target, Hot Topic, Box Lunch. And so it just has a different shared sticker on it. So those convention exclusives are supposed to be limited, and they're usually $15 a piece if they're the normal size. And usually a Funko Pop is anywhere from $8 to $12 common at retail, but these are $15. And sometimes what I think they do is they'll make like a pop that I wouldn't buy at the normal price, and they'll call it a convention exclusive, so it's exclusive, and then charge $15 for it. And so that's something that I've seen happen a lot more lately. Usually the big cons have, maybe 50 plus exclusives, and there's no way you can buy all of those. Like that's a lot of money if someone was like trying to collect them all, which I don't think many people are. But it's just interesting. Like it's interesting what is a common and what is an exclusive. Like there's no way to tell. Anything could be anything. They decide, like this Taskmaster is going to be an exclusive and this one's not. And then the price varies depending on that.
Yeah,
So
the Stan Lee ones used to be like that early on.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
It's really funny because it's like, after No Way Home and we saw Matt Murdock, like I have that Matt Murdock pop of him with the red glasses and the cane and the gray suit, Yep, and that was like one of the first pops I've ever bought, and it's just been sitting on the shelf, and it's just been sitting there, and then I see it goes up to like $180 here, and I'm like, whoa, like, are you kidding me? Like, that's insane. I would not pay that, but
they definitely mirror the comic book market for
Yeah.
sure. Like they definitely, I've noticed that. Like if I'm looking at one of my apps or something with my comics, and I'll notice like this item, this comic is rising in value. I'm like, oh, I wonder what info was released about this character, or there's a lot of that speculation. Speculation seems to drive a lot of, and you guys know probably better than I do, but a lot of the market for comic books. Who's going to appear in a series or what character is going to be introduced in the MCU, or that seems to, I have the first, I think it was maybe an eight issue miniseries, the Young Avengers, when that first came out years ago with the first appearance of Kate Bishop and that whole Young Avengers team. So I have those, and those have shot up a lot since the talk about the MCU and all that.
So speaking of
sorry, Jarian,
go ahead.
No,
I would say, speaking of price and stuff, what are your thoughts when you see those articles about some Funkos are worth, several $100 to a couple $1,000s each?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no different to me than anything that's valuable. Like, if someone's willing to pay that, then that's what it's worth. But there is a fine line, though. I think, like my cousin and we went to Baltimore Comic-Con in Baltimore, Maryland this past year. And there was these tables. There was a couple different businesses there where they grade things, and they had sealed, graded Super Nintendo games. And like I was looking at them, and I'm like, how much would that? And he's like, this one's like $3,000, and it was Final Fantasy III, which I had when I was a kid. Like I played that game and everything, and I'm like, $3,000 for who bought Final Fantasy III and never played it?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
And so, but I guess he said it was like leftover stock in Toys R Us stores and stuff. So they find it different ways. But sealed stuff and things like that nostalgia button, people pay, I don't know how many thousands of dollars for that stuff. G.I. Joes and, so to me, some of the Funko stuff, it makes sense if it's like a truly limited item piece. So like if it's a 3,000 piece, or some of the original Freddy Funko pieces that were like 24 or 48, and that's all they made of that character, that makes sense to me because there's only a certain number of them that exist. Or some of the really old Funko Pops that before it became a thing and nobody really was buying them, and now they're old and vaulted, and that makes sense that a lot of that stuff might be highly sought after. But some of the stuff now, like if a pop comes out tomorrow and all of a sudden it shoots up to $500, I'm going to be really skeptical of that pop holding its value long term. I would hesitate to spend $500 on a pop that came out in the last couple of years, unless it was a limited edition. Not that I would. My wife's listening. I would not spend $500 on a. This is all hypothetical.
Neither would I.
This is all hypothetical. Alyssa, babe, this is all hypothetical. If there was a pop that was a limited edition piece, then it might be worth it. But
yeah, no, fair enough. I think that's just what you were saying there about the prices varying depending on the game with comics of what's coming out, and the prices, like what Alex was saying about his Daredevil pop price fluctuating because of what we've seen recently. It's a perfect segue into sort of a very MCU Funko tied in question. Do you see too much given away in pops, or not enough given away in pops, or what kind of relationship do you see with we are shown in just toys in general, and figures, and Legos and all these other sorts of things, and then what we eventually get in the show or the program or the movie or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, Funko seems to do a really nice job of holding back on releasing certain pops before, so they don't ruin it for you. Like, for instance, the No Way Home Spider-Man movie that came out, like, they still haven't released any additional pops. Like, the pops that they released for that initial set, there was only 5 of them, and it was, MJ, his friend, which I can't remember his name, Ned, and then a couple versions of Spider-Man. That was it. And so it didn't reveal any of the other surprises that were in that movie, and they still haven't, which I don't know, maybe I'm assuming they're going to make some more pops for that line. But they've done a pretty good job of that. Same thing with like Marvel Legends. I do have some Marvel Legends figures too, that they kind of stay back. I think the Marvel Legends line for No Way Home, it didn't really reveal anything either. It was just the integrated suit, the black and gold suit, and then I think it had a Miles Morales game reverse. Like, it wasn't even anything about the movie. So I think they do a pretty nice job, but I think they definitely milk it. They definitely milk the wave, which I guess that's just how the market works. Where the toys and everything that we get, the merchandise, definitely replicates the successful media content, like movies and TV. And, we'll get, like when Space Jam, I'm just looking at my Space Jam pops. I had done a video on them, so they're still on the floor. But, the LeBron James Space Jam movie, when that came out, they had a line of pops, and, they kept doing all these different variants of LeBron and everything. So they definitely I think they milk the variant. They definitely push that. But I haven't had a property spoiled from a toy, revealing something before I got to it, unless I was just the one that was late to watching something. I haven't had that happen. Maybe I'm interested to hear if you guys have had something spoiled.
I wouldn't say we've had anything spoiled, but I think we always, especially us three here, we always kind of go, oh, look at the pops that are released. Like with Hawkeye, we instantly looked at the Hawkeye, the Clint Barton pop was released, and it was like, excuse the pun, but Hawkeye's on the earpiece that he was wearing in his ear.
Yeah.
And you could go, hold on, he's wearing an earpiece there. Are they going to work on the sort of whole angle of his losing his hearing? And obviously they did go down that way. And so we've seen things like that in the past, and we do. So we'll go, oh, look, these are the new pops released. Can we sort of find anything in there that's going to, he used the word integrated suit, because that is generally what it's called. But basically it means inside out suit.
Right.
So, so we were all looking at that suit going, oh, wow, is that a new suit that Tony Stark's built for him? Or is, Doctor Strange done this, or has someone done that? And it's like, well, actually, no, it was just the wrong way around.
Yeah. Well, I will actually, I lied for a second. I didn't think about this. So the Doctor Strange Funko Pop in the No Way Home line, he's got snow boots and a shovel. Yeah, the pop does. And so that kind of like, I don't know what that means, but at some point there's going to be snow, and, there it was. So I think those details to me are what's cool about pops in general, and looking at them out of the box, because you miss some of that stuff if you don't take them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you bought? Oh, I was just gonna say, have you bought any of the mini moments, like the little Funko mini moments?
No, I haven't. I think there's like the Scarlet Witch and Vision mini moments, and Seinfeld and different ones like that. I haven't. Like, I've really tried to just stick to pops, because when I was first started collecting Funkos, it was pops, and then I branched out to Dorbs, and which are like these little smiley faced looking figures, which I had almost all the Dorbs, and then I had pint sized heroes, and I had Hikaris, and I had vinyl idols. Like, there was all these, and that's another thing I like about Funko, is they just throw crap at the wall. Like, they will try to be creative and come up with these different things, and if the line fails, it failed, let's abandon it and we move on and create a soda can with a figure. But I like that though. But I've since sold a lot of that stuff, so I've really tried to stay away from like those other lines that tend to come out. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I bought these sodas was for a video, like a YouTube video, and but I probably wouldn't do a lot of that stuff if I didn't have content that I'm creating. And
cool. So before we go, we've got sort of 10 minutes left. We'll ask you the same question that we ask all of our guests that come on the show. So we do talk a lot about the MCU. We like talking about all different aspects of Marvel, but we do talk a lot about the MCU. So we want to hear something you really like about what the MCU has done. Anything, it can be anything, even if it's about one character, a storyline, a movie, but something that you really like, you think they've done it really, really well. And then another thing about the MCU that you would banish into room 101, never to be seen again. So I don't mind which way around you do it, but over to you. What do you reckon?
Let me see. Well, we just watched The Eternals last night, which we were pleasantly surprised. I was surprised with. I liked it. I really liked it. I think a couple things about the MCU. I'm just so impressed with how thought out it appears, whether it is or not. It just appears to be very thought out, and somebody behind the scenes is like, yes, we're linking this and we're linking this, and oh, that movie 10 years ago, we did that because we're going to do this 10 years from now. Like, it just feels like it's just this cohesive monster that just keeps moving. And I pretty much loved almost everything about the MCU. My first experience was, of course, the first Avengers movie, and I was in the theater for that, and that was amazing. Like, even though, does it still hold, it's not necessarily the best MCU movie in my opinion, but just seeing all those characters on screen, and that was like the beginning of other people getting into it, or at least admitting that they're into it, that wouldn't admit it before. Like, that was really cool. Honestly, I didn't really love What If. Like, I didn't watch the whole thing. I'll admit that I didn't watch the whole thing, but it just didn't really hit for me. And maybe I'm missing something because I didn't finish it. But
was it the animated side of it, do you think, or was it just because it was unusual? Or
I think it was a combination of the animation and just some of the content. Like, Captain Carter, that's cool. That was an alternate universe. Captain America. Which is fine. It was just fine. I mean, I guess that's my description to it. I didn't really like the Star-Lord T'Challa stuff at all. He was kidnapped and was with Yondu. Actually, maybe that's the one thing I don't like, the Yondu. I'm not a big fan of Yondu. Like, when I think of Yondu, I think of the original Guardians of the Galaxy,
right,
from like the 30th century or whatever it's supposed to be. And I just think that team's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I would say Yondu maybe is my the one beef that I have with the MCU. It just, I don't know.
No, that's fair enough. It's when you get put on the spot like that and said, right, give me something that you like and give me something you don't like. Sometimes it's pretty difficult to come up.
If I thought on it for a while, I would give you a much better answer. But that's what
you'd have to come back again and tell us your answer. But yeah, no,
I got a question for you real quick. Since you mentioned it earlier, what was your thoughts on Taskmaster?
I haven't even seen the Black Widow movie.
Okay, never mind. I'll be quiet.
So my guess, though, is that would be in the beef list. I'm guessing Taskmaster would join the beef list. So.
It's Jarian's. It's 100% Jarian's 101. That is his beef list, like, repeated over and over again.
Yeah, Taskmaster is such a cool character that there's so much you can do with him. Don't do that. Whatever they did, don't do that.
Well, before we go, Paul, give us you've mentioned your YouTube channel, you've mentioned your group. Let us just let everybody know where they can catch you and what you do, and what your channels are. Where can they find you?
Sure, yeah. So for anyone that's interested, would love to have you check out. So my YouTube channel's the Pop Enthusiast, and so we just passed like 4,000 subscribers. So we're not a big channel or anything, but it's really fun. Videos are sponsored by Mercari, so I work pretty closely with Mercari on stuff, which they help with that. And then also the Facebook group, it's called Funko Pop Fans. And so we just did, anyone that's in the group, and you guys may have seen this, but at the end of the year, we did some major giveaways. Like I gave away a $900 vaulted Elvis, 1950s Elvis Funko Pop. We did basically a lot of different I think I gave away 8 to 10 different like Grail, highly valuable pops. People call them Grails. But I gave away those like every week at the end of the year as like a thank you and appreciation and everything. So we gave away a bunch of anime stuff and some Marvel stuff and like Blacklight Carnage and things like that. So the YouTube channel, The Pop Enthusiast, my Facebook group, Funko Pop Fans. I'm on Instagram as The Pop Enthusiast. Anywhere you see The Pop Enthusiast is probably me. whether it's on Twitter or Instagram. I just started a TikTok, which I don't know what I'm doing, but I created a TikTok account. But yeah, that's it. If you want to support those channels and media content, that'd be great. I would really appreciate that.
Fantastic. Paul, thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and it's been really interesting to hear more about you and how your life has, your collection of pops has transcended just purely being a collection of pops. So that's really nice to hear. So thank you for coming on, mate.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me on. It's nice to meet you.
Very
Nice
welcome.
to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Jarian, Alex, as always, cheers, guys, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Why don't you tell them about the time we faced